I met Lucas when I was 13. He was quiet, always lingering at the edge of groups, watching more than speaking. He moved to our town mid-year and clung to me after I helped him find the lunchroom. At first, I didn't mind. He was kind in his own awkward way. But over time, Lucas became attached. He showed up everywhere. At my soccer games, outside my part-time job, he remembered everything I liked, everything I said. Once, he gave me a notebook filled with doodles of my face, pages and pages of it. I laughed it off, but I should have seen it for what it was. We drifted after high school. I moved to the city for college. I barely thought about Lucas anymore, until he texted me last week. "Coming to your party?" it said. I didn't even know how he found out I was having one. It wasn't public, just a few friends from school celebrating the end of finals. He arrived early, too early. He stood at my door with a bottle of wine and that same flat stare. I let him in out of guilt. He hovered by the kitchen, never speaking unless spoken to, just watched. When my friends tried to include him, he didn't respond. Around 11, I noticed things missing, small things. A ring I'd left by the sink, my friend's scarf. I asked around, no one saw anything. At midnight, the power cut out. Everyone groaned, thinking it was a blown fuse. But when I reached the hallway, the breaker had been switched off, manually. In the dark, I called for everyone to stay put. Then, I heard the scream. We found my roommate locked in the bathroom crying. Someone had slid a photo under the door, a Polaroid of her sleeping, taken from inside her room. People left fast after that. When I turned the lights back on, Lucas was gone. The next morning, I found more Polaroids in my mailbox, all of them from the night before. All taken from inside my apartment. One was of me, standing in the kitchen, smiling, taken from just inches behind me. I filed a police report, but they couldn't trace him. His number was disconnected, his social media wiped. 2 nights ago, I found a note under my pillow. "I'm still your best friend. I live alone." Yesterday, I came home from work and noticed something strange. My window was unlocked. I never leave it that way. I checked every room, every drawer, nothing missing. But that night I woke up to a faint rustling sound near the closet. Inside, beneath a pile of clothes, was my missing ring. And beside it, another photo. This one was recent. I was sleeping, mouth slightly open, clutching the same pillow I always do. But this time the photo wasn't of me. It was of the back of my head, taken from my bed. He was in the room. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. Just me, a cabin, and the forest. I needed to disconnect. No signal, no emails, no people. The cabin was 2 hours outside the nearest town, nestled in a clearing surrounded by pine. It belonged to a friend of a friend and came with no electricity, no Wi-Fi, just a fireplace and a generator that powered a single overhead bulb. When I arrived, a thick fog rolled in behind me. The kind that swallows sound, no birds, no wind, just quiet, muffled, and strange. The first night passed uneventfully. I read, cooked, slept. But the next morning, I noticed something odd. Footprints, not mine. I had boots with thick soles. These were bare, small, and led from the woods to the cabin's front door. I stared at them, half expecting them to vanish. They didn't. They ended right at the wooden steps and nowhere else. I checked the cabin, locked, empty. Trying to rationalize it, I told myself maybe an animal made them, maybe a trick of moisture and shadow. But they were shaped too perfectly. 5 toes, narrow heels, arches, human. That night, the fog got thicker. I couldn't see more than 10 feet beyond the porch. The silence felt deeper, heavier. I lit the fireplace and tried to ignore the unease creeping up my spine. Around midnight, I heard soft knocking, 3 slow taps, then silence. I didn't move, I didn't speak. I just stared at the door. Another knock, closer this time, against the cabin's side wall. Then again, tap, 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 behind me. I turned off the light. More knocking, now on the windows, every side. No shadows, no shapes, just knocks. I grabbed the axe by the fireplace and stood there, heart hammering, staring into the fog outside. Then it stopped. The rest of the night passed without a sound. When I opened the door the next morning, dozens of footprints covered the clearing, circling the cabin. Some big, some childlike, all barefoot. None mine. I packed up and tried to drive out. The road had vanished. Where the trail had once been, there was only forest. Dense, wrong, like it had never been cleared. The fog pressed against the glass as I reversed back toward the cabin. That night, the knocks returned. Faster, harder. Windows rattled. The doorknob turned. I held the axe and whispered to myself just to stay sane. Sometime after 3 a.m., the generator died. Darkness swallowed me whole. At sunrise, I opened the door and screamed. On the cabin wall, scratched into the wood, were words, "You're not alone. You never were." I ran. I don't remember how I got out, just the trees, the fog, and the feeling that someone, or something, was always just behind me. I made it to town covered in mud and blood I don't remember spilling. The police investigated. They found the cabin, but not the scratches, not the footprints, and not the road I took to get there. Just a clearing in the woods. When I moved into apartment 3L, I didn't think much of the building. It was old, dull gray brick, the kind of place you rent when you're broke but need your own space. The elevator didn't work, and the hallway light on my floor flickered constantly, but the rent was cheap, and I didn't mind the quiet. At first, it was just little things. The mail slot would open in the middle of the night, even though no one delivered anything. I'd find my lights turned on when I swore I'd left them off. Once, I came home, and the TV was playing static. I hadn't even plugged it in yet. Still, I figured I was just tired. I worked long hours and barely slept. But then I started hearing footsteps in the hallway. Slow, dragging steps, always around 2:30 a.m. I assumed it was one of the neighbors until I asked around. No one else lived on the third floor. The landlord said 3R and 3M had been empty for months. 3C, never rented apparently. Used for storage, he told me, avoiding eye contact. I checked anyway. The doors were all locked. But every night I heard them. Steps outside. A faint tap on my door. One night I stayed up, lights off, phone recording. At exactly 2:34 a.m., 3 slow knocks. I held my breath and checked the peephole, nothing. I opened the door, empty hallway. But on the floor, a single photograph. Black and white, faded. It showed a hallway that looked just like mine. Same peeling paint, same flickering bulb. Except in the photo, all the doors were open. And standing in the doorway of 3C was a tall, thin figure. No face, just long limbs and a shadowed head turned slightly, as if listening. I dropped the photo and slammed the door. That morning, the photo was gone. I decided to ask the landlord more directly. His expression changed. I should have told you. That unit, it used to be part of a group home, mental health patients. One of them, she was violent. Went missing during a winter storm. They found everyone else in the apartment dead, but not her. I didn't sleep that night. Around 3 a.m., I heard the dragging footsteps again. Then my doorknob turned. Once, twice. I backed away. Then it stopped, and my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I liked your photo." I moved out the next day. 3 weeks later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a framed photo. Me, asleep in bed. And in the background, barely visible near my closet, a tall figure. Same build, same angle of the head. I smashed the frame and threw it out. But that night in my new apartment, 5 cities away, the hallway light outside my door began to flicker. And at 2:34 a.m., I heard the same slow knock, 3 times. It was supposed to be a quick trip. I had a job interview in another state, and to save money, I chose to drive overnight. The highway stretched ahead in endless black ribbons, framed by nothing but pine trees and shadows. Around 1:17 a.m., I passed a green road sign. Exit 47, no services. I didn't plan to take it, but a few miles later, the GPS started glitching. It froze, reset, then pointed me toward exit 47 with the words, "Rerouting shortest route." Stupidly, I followed it. The exit led to a narrow, cracked road with no markings. Trees pressed in close on either side. My headlights caught glimpses of rusted fences and empty fields. I drove for 10 minutes before realizing I hadn't seen another car. Then my radio died. Total static, then silence. I turned it off. That's when I saw the woman. She stood just beyond my headlights, in the middle of the road. Pale dress, no shoes, head down. I slammed the brakes. She didn't flinch. I honked. Nothing. Reluctantly, I rolled down my window a crack. "Ma'am, are you okay?" She raised her head slowly. Her face was blank. No fear, no confusion. Just vacant eyes that didn't blink. I didn't wait. I backed up, tires screeching, then swerved around her. In the rearview mirror, she was still standing there, unmoving. I drove faster. A few miles later, my headlights caught something again. The same woman. This time, closer to the road's edge. I passed her without slowing down. And then, a few minutes later, again. The third time, she was standing on the yellow line. I sped past, heart pounding, but I didn't see her in the mirror this time, because she was now sitting in my back seat. I only caught a glimpse, her reflection in the rear view, pale face, eyes wide, staring directly at me. I screamed and veered off the road. The car stalled. When I turned around, no one was there. I got out, breathing hard, scanning the woods. Nothing. I grabbed my phone. No signal. When I got back in, my driver's seat was soaked, not with water, with something thick, dark. I drove the rest of the way without stopping, windows down, music blaring just to drown out my own panic. By sunrise, I was parked in front of the gas station near the interview office. I checked the back seat again. Empty, nothing on the upholstery, not even a stain. I told myself I'd hallucinated, that I was exhausted, dehydrated, scared. But later that week, as I was unpacking at the motel, I found something stuffed under the passenger seat, a yellow road sign. It was old, faded, covered in scratches. It read, "Exit 47, no way back." I checked into room 319 of the Grand Pine Hotel because it was the only vacancy in town. An old business hotel built in the 1940s, it sat on a quiet street, surrounded by shuttered shops and cracked sidewalks. The clerk barely looked up as he slid the keycard across the counter. "Don't leave the TV on static," he muttered. I thought it was a joke. The elevator groaned as it climbed. My floor smelled of old wood, furniture polish, and something faintly metallic. Room 319 was at the far end of the hall. The light above the door flickered when I inserted the card. Inside it looked ordinary enough. Beige walls, patterned carpet, a bed that creaked if you looked at it wrong. I tossed my bag down and clicked on the TV. Just static. I flipped channels. Every station, static. Frustrated, I turned the volume down and left it as background noise while I showered. That's when I heard it. A whisper, barely audible. At first I thought it came from the hallway, but it was in the room. "Don't turn it off." I froze. The water pounded against tile. The whisper came again, more urgent. "Don't turn it off." I stepped out, heart racing, and stared at the TV, still static. No words, no movement, but the whisper had come from there. I shut the TV off. The room dropped into complete silence. Then something clicked. Not from the TV, from the closet. The knob turned a fraction of an inch. I grabbed my phone. Dead. Fully charged minutes ago. I turned the TV back on. The static returned, and the whispering stopped. I didn't sleep that night. I left the TV running, volume low. Around 3:33 a.m., the screen flickered. A shape emerged in the fuzz. A figure, thin, barefoot, standing in the corner of the room, head tilted at an unnatural angle. My breath caught in my throat. Then the screen went black. The whisper returned. This time, it was right beside my ear. "You let it out." I bolted. Left everything behind. Keys, phone, luggage. I ran barefoot into the street and didn't stop until I found a diner open 24 hours. They let me sit, trembling, until sunrise. When I returned to the hotel, I demanded to speak to the manager. He sighed, pulled out a binder, opened to a page marked Room 319. "Third one this year." he said quietly. He showed me a faded photo. A woman, pale, lifeless, eyes wide open. She'd died in that room. Left the TV on static for days before anyone noticed. She'd whispered something in her final message on the room phone. Don't turn it off. It started with an unmarked package on my doorstep. No return address. Just a USB drive inside and a note for your documentary. You'll want to see this. I'm a freelance filmmaker, mostly covering cold cases. My latest project focused on a string of missing persons spanning over 2 decades. All last seen near the same town, Dover Falls, population 5,100. I plugged in the drive, one file, collector_basement.mp4. It opened to shaky footage, dim basement lighting, a single swinging bulb. The camera panned across shelves, jars of hair, teeth, labeled bags of clothing. Dozens of photo albums stacked high, each marked with dates. Then a man entered the frame. Late 50s, gaunt, greasy hair, thick glasses. He stood in front of the camera smiling. I'm not a monster, he said calmly. I'm a preservationist. He spoke to the lens like he was recording a confession or a tour. These aren't victims, he said. They're memories. Every one of them wanted to be remembered. I just made sure of it. He walked toward the shelves, picked up a doll's dress. This one loved purple. Sang to herself when scared. You can still hear her sometimes. He opened a door in the back of the room. The camera followed. A narrow hallway, concrete walls, scratches along the sides. At the end, metal doors. He turned the camera on himself again. I hope whoever finds this understands. I was never cruel. I kept them warm, fed, documented. He opened the doors. Darkness, then a sound. Ragged breathing. The video ended. No timestamp. No GPS metadata. Nothing to trace. I showed it to the police. They dismissed it as a hoax. But I couldn't let it go. I went to Dover Falls. I started asking questions. Quietly, discreetly. Most people clammed up. But one old woman at a diner recognized the man. Used to be a funeral director, she whispered. Real quiet. Lived alone on Sycamore Road. Vanished years ago. House is still there, though. I found it. Boarded windows. Overgrown lawn. A rusted mailbox with the name Harlan. I broke in. The inside was choked with dust, mildew, stale air. In the basement, I found it. The swinging bulb, the shelves, everything from the video. Then I saw it. A second camera, still recording. Light blinking red. Beside it, a single sheet of paper. Welcome, filmmaker. Before I could move, I heard the door creak shut upstairs, then lock. Footsteps above me. Then the camera's light turned green, recording.